Well, that was a hell of a palate cleanser. So, the Legendary Heroes arc. Now, what's funny is last week I spent so much time bitching about Rebecca that I didn't really. There's actually some cleanup I need to do from my rant about Rebecca. Heck, believe it or not, because of all of the stuff that I screwed up on. Give me one sec here. Just gonna clear some wrappers out of my way. Hey, while I keep talking here. For starters, soul release, right? I didn't explain what soul release did. Because that was the whole explanation of, oh, it was actually Yugi that won. I still say that's a duel that shouldn't have happened, but let's just ignore my opinion on that for a minute, and just move on to the bigger picture here, because, it shouldn't have happened. Okay, yeah, that's great, but that's not the point. The point is that I forgot to talk about what soul release does. See, soul release, well, is the first time remove from play came into the equation. The idea basically being that they move outside of the graveyard, and the original intent behind it is the same reason why the mechanic was called remove from play. It was meant to be permanent. You're banishing it from the duel permanently, as in it will not interfere with that duel again. Right? This was one of the first cards in the series, anyway, that showed this. There, of course, would be the Chaos Monsters, but we can get into that more when Chaos Emperor Dragon shows up, right? And that's why why Yugi would have won, because Shadow Ghoul would have had its attack drained, and things would have been better. Now, I got angry at that. So, you've probably heard on one of my videos, my roommate's walking by as he's going to the bathroom, and he's got his phone, and he had a video playing, and then I muted my mic in order to keep that person's video out of my video, because I don't know whose video that was, and I didn't have permission to have their video in my video, even audio-wise. Sense, Mike? So, but you get anyways, the point of that is I was so loud in my bitching, apparently, because I got pretty loud, I got pretty vitriolic. I'm probably going to have to do some audio balancing with that fucking review because of how angry I got. I mean, we'll see, because I didn't really detect any real, ear-piercing sounds that I made, but... Because, yes, I do rewatch my videos to just kind of see what kind of editing I'm going to need to do. Basically, think of it as the pre-editing process, right? In other words, I go through the video, I see what I need to, see any potential edits I may have to, like, for example, if I accidentally sneeze, right? Now, obviously, I'm not going to edit that one out, because that was obviously fake sneeze to prove to just do my point. Which I just realized is a point nobody's going to get, because I deleted that video. God damn it. Essentially, the idea behind getting the editing software that I did was because I was recording a video for the eventual return of Wolf's Den, and, well, I should say eventual, but, for what I was trying for a while to get Wolf's Den to get back up and to actually start up again. And what I actually recorded a 3-hour video that I couldn't get through without a sneeze in the middle of it. So that is and so I sneeze, and then I'm just like, ah, damn it. All right, so I guess I'm getting editing software anyway. I even thought it was going to be Sony Vegas, but it ended up being Filmora. Admittedly, it's not the fanciest editing software, but I don't really need fancy. I just need functional. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm okay with Streamlabs. You know, excuse me, why I was okay with recording videos through Streamlabs OBS until Streamlabs OBS decided to what's the word I'm looking for? Become complete shit. But yeah, that was a failure on my part, and it's mostly just because I was so angry at that episode because see, here's the thing. There are certain characters that I cannot stand. Now, sometimes I can turn around on a character, right? For example, let's take Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, which is appropriate from, both from my perspective because, I'm still in the middle of recording my reactions to the FF9 Theater, which I do weekly because, well, they come out weekly. And the end, I suppose. But let's take Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, right? Steiner from Final Fantasy IX was a character that I didn't like, to be blunt, because Final Fantasy IX, the lore runners described this, has a problem with text, and because there was no voice acting in the franchise is until 10, and in my blunt opinion, no good voice acting until 12. Sorry 10-2, but yeah, I'm gonna throw you under the fucking bus for that. And for voice acting, because I think your voice acting sucks, just like Yuna thinks about that plan. Sorry. Anyways, because we didn't get any voice acting, Steiner came across as that he was double, triple, and quadrupling down on his stupidity. The problem, and the FF9 Theater fixes this beautifully, there's no fucking nuance to him double, tripling, and quadrupling down on his stupidity. At all. Steiner is just a fucking idiot until Beatrix basically point blank says, yeah, Queen Braun was planning to chop Garnet's head off. For the record, in the FF9 Theater, from my perspective, we haven't gotten to that point. The latest, to give you a bit of time perspective, the latest chapter of the FF9 Theater that just went live was Clara. Yeah. Great end to that chapter, by the way. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. Now, why am I bothering to correct myself with Rebecca, you might ask? Very simple. Very, very simple. It's because I stand behind my statement from last time. If you had shuffled these episodes around, the pacing would have been much better. Like, put Legendary Heroes right after Duelist Kingdom and have, the opening of Legendary Heroes be the Duelist Kingdom thing, then that would have worked so much better. Now, would that have affected the pace any? Yes, but I think you could have probably chopped out. There's a 45-second scene that in the sub that I honestly feel like you could chop out and it would make the episode flow better. I know because the dub flows better as a result of cutting that scene. Make of that what you will. But in the interest of fairness, actually, I don't even think I wrote... Did I even write down my preferences? Oh, shit. I didn't even write down my preferences before I hit record. That is a fail and a half on my part. Holy crap. So, I'll just keep talking. But yeah, no, I stand behind that wholeheartedly. I it would have made the episodes flow better because then Rebecca didn't have to interrupt the celebration. And if you really wanted to stretch it, just have it be that Grandpa was asked to stay one more night for observation, just so they could make sure everything worked out fine, and then have him discharged from the hospital on the very next day, right? I just think it would have flowed better because otherwise it basically took however long in order for Seto to confront the Big Five. Because remember, Mokuba was in part 1 of that two-parter. Yeah. God, I really was angry after that episode. I just looked at my preference for the Rebecca two-parter, and literally what I wrote was preference. Preference, colon, fuck off. Yeah. So, yeah, that looks like that means the sub and the dove are tied right now again. I'll explain that in a bit, but so even though I'm covering out all of the videos in one, the preference points, as you can kind of tell, I don't know if you can really tell that, but here I'll, but I actually wrote it down as by part, right? So each individual part has a chance for me to prefer it in one or the other. Actually, I said that during Match of the Millennium, didn't I? God damn it. Anyways, so guess I'm just reiterating that point. And yes, 2 pages of notes for the record. Basically a page of notes for it. No, I wouldn't have been able to fit part 3 all in one. Basically a page for each version, which makes a lot of sense. So, let's talk about Kaiba firing the Big Five first. Now, okay, that whole scene is very interesting. It reads differently, and yet is still interesting in both for one very particular reason, especially if you know Japanese culture. So let's start with Seto firing the Big Five. Now, why would they make a big stink about trying to keep their jobs? Now, you could say it's because they love their jobs. Sure. You could say it's because they've still got ambitions. True. But the real reason is that, the intended reason by the Japanese writers is because of Japanese culture. See, now, I admit I don't really know it too much, but I live in Canada, so all I can use is Canadian logic here, okay? The Canadian job market, in other words. When you get fired from a place, that is going to be a sticking point. You were let go, the company, you were marked as being fired, right? Or let go, right? Now, sometimes that can just be a layoff, and if I'm not mistaken, there is usually a check mark of you were laid off because of X, Y, or Z, right? And it was a layoff, not a firing. But if you're let go by the company because of behavior, well, that's going to be a red flag for any person that's interviewing you for a job, right? And that's a stigma. Now, some bosses, like the one who hired me for my current job originally, roughly 10 years ago, was able to overlook that because I was showed that I had genuinely learned my lesson, because I acknowledged that yes, I made a mistake, yes, it got me fired, and yes, I deserve to be fired for that mistake. Let's just say my commentary was awful, and leave it at that. Which actually led to a very hilarious foot in my mouth scenario a few years later. And yes, it was, it was commentary of a sexual nature that got me fired from the one job, and yes, I deserved it. Funny enough, actually, my mother actually commented saying, oh, they're taking advantage of you having been fired and blah 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 blah. You should look into it. And I just looked at her and I said, it doesn't change what I said. Like, it doesn't change what I said. Yes, they're taking advantage of it, but it doesn't change the fact that what I said was grounds for termination. Doi. then again, I could make a mention about when I was 4 years old, but I think I've already thrown my mother under the bus enough times, names on enough platforms for the time being. Just wait until if/when I ever start reviewing Digimon. Ugh, boy, I'm going to be yeeting under a bus, inserting someone under a bus real hard for that one. And specifically when I get to Digimon Frontier. If you don't remember that one, that's the one where the children transform into Digimon. Or as I used to stupidly consider it, Power Rangers Digimon Force. And yes, I am switching back and forth between water and Pepsi because I've been craving a sip of Pepsi, and slowly trying to get my water down, my cup empty of water because I have nowhere to dump it really. Anyways, so Kaiba goes to fire them. They plead. So in the Japanese version, they basically challenge him, and in the dub, they appeal to his ego. Because in the dub, it's his virtual system that's completed, and in the sub, it's just a system that they crafted, and they're challenging him to a game. I know the idea is Kaiba can't say no to a game, and the nature of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, or the Yu-Gi-Oh universe, in general. But here's the problem. It's still stupid. Because the big five, as soon as you get in that pod, you're handing the big five all the cards, so to speak. Yeah. Just saying, Insetto. Kind of a dumb move there. So, yeah, and that's the other thing too. Kaiba apparently, there's my note about Kaiba not designing the pods in the sub. That's a weird thing to me, to be honest with you. So then Kaiba digital dives in, which is funny because I actually have a note a bit later. SAO flash forwards specifically. Because they're unsure of what will happen when their life points hit 0 in this game. Admittedly, that's also because of the big 5. So, yeah, that's actually a legit concern. Although I think that's more of just if their pods are unplugged. So, speaking of which, Mokuba goes to Yugi for help, which Kaiba doesn't like in either version for whatever fucking reason. And he basically is worried because he's wanting to. They were going to start building Kaiba Land theme parks, which is funny because that's gonna be interrupted by the manga storyline. Thanks for that in advance, Shizu. Anyways. So, this is where we start getting into the fact that, as I mentioned last time, this is basically the greatest hits of moves from Duelist Kingdom, right? The Shield and Sword victory, the Shield and Sword victory against the zombies, Black Skull Dragon defeating, being beefed up and then defeating Gate Guardian. What else was there? Because I could have sworn there was another thing they did. Oh yeah, magical hats to move about the labyrinth, etc., etc. So then they encounter Key Mace as a guide. Okay, cool. And then old RPG and X-Men Gold. See, okay. You want to know why I'm not a big fan of older RPGs? These specifically like the NES ones. And it's more so. I mean, I will argue the values of the PS1 RPGs, right? I will argue their value until the cows come home, right? I'll stick up for Final Fantasy VII. I'll stick up for Final Fantasy VIII. I will especially stick up for Final Fantasy IX. You know, I'll stick up for Final Fantasy Tactics. I'll stick up for Xenogears. I swear I can name other RPGs that are not from Square. I'll sing Legend of Dragoon's praises until the cows come home. Um, I need to play some more, but you get my point, right? But yeah, the problem was low exp and gold gain. See, in order to get some really good cards, they effectively need to spend 2,000 gold. So how much did they get each for defeating those zombies? 5. Now, in case your math is a little rusty, that means they would have to defeat 400 hordes of zombies. Yeah, you can kind of see why I don't go back to the older versions of RPGs, right? It's actually one of the reasons I could never get into too many of the older Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games. Not that they're bad, it's just I couldn't get into them, you know? I hate being underpowered, and that's my point. And that's why I think certain people like Lore got so used to being under leveled because it's like, well, no, I'm just going to go through the game, right? It's also the problem I have with X scaling, for example, because yeah, it's great for when you're trying to carry weaker people up to level, but what if you want to go beyond that and just curb stomp the game? Well, the game flips you the bird and says, go to hell. That's what happens, you know? So then we start running into RPG logic. Now I've mentioned that season 1 is basically just D&D. You know, it was D&D represented by cards, and I stand behind that logic. It's all over the place with this, you know, the shield and sword defeating the zombies somehow. Oh, uh, you know, the needing to cross you. Sorry about that. The needing a chocobo. I mean, Tori, in order to cross the desert. You know, the catapult turtle Karibo combo that gets used later. Time wizard to resurrect the airship. Blah 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 blah. Right. So they need the Niwatori card, and so they head to the Colosseum, and they have to face Madame Butterfly. My My note literally just says, "Hi, Mai." For the record, they don't even really reveal her voice until part 2 in the Japanese version, but they have her laugh in the dub, and it's just like, okay, sub, who the fuck are you trying to fool? Like, seriously, who are you trying to fool by not revealing that that's Mai right away? Especially considering you were just going to reveal it in the frickin' preview anyway. Whatever. Is there anything else from part 1 I want to talk about? I suppose I should talk about out a couple of things. So I mentioned in my notes, I mentioned some unnecessary name changes. There's literally keep out and adventure game signs that are changed to a Kaiba Corp logo and a do not enter symbol. Shouldn't that be the other way around? I don't know. Also, Chemo's orders are feel much more like a threat in the dub because they say, go trap Yugi in the virtual world, and it's like, they don't really elaborate on that. At least in the dub, they literally say that he's going to unplug the pods so that there's no way they could come back at all. That makes a degree of sense, to be honest, because then it's truly SAO, where if you die in the game, you're dead because your mind can't go back to its body, which means your mind is trapped in cyberspace. Which just begs the question why the Big Five risk that later on at the end of this episode, at the end of this three-parter, but we can get into that later. So then we get into part 2, who Joey and my fight. Right? And Joey brings out Flame Swordsman again, who died against the zombies. Nice to know your monsters don't perma-die. I actually kind of like that, if I'm honest. Makes me wonder why they are weirded out by the monsters. Monsters getting sent to the graveyard. Heard in the dub in part 3, but whatever. So then they convince Mai to come with them. Joey uses Trap Hole for some crowd control. And then it's revealed not only did the Big Five hire Mai to test out their equipment, but Mai is apparently also trapped in the virtual world until they clear the game. Why? And that's more of a question aimed at the Big Five. Seriously, what the fuck were you guys thinking, right? Now, okay. Maybe you could get away with saying that, Maya's more of a loner, nobody would come looking for her. But if anybody finds out, well, not only are you going to be fired if you don't pull something stupid at the end of these episodes, but now you've got a kidnapping charge on your ass. Times fuck up to 5. Okay, I admit I don't know what the stigma of getting fired. I don't know the stigma of getting fired in Japan, which I actually didn't finish saying. Yeah, apparently the stigma is even more so in Japan of getting fired. Like if you get fired, like for example, if I got fired from the one job, I would like basically the idea would be I would never work at a gas station again, which is the job I got fired from was being a gas attendant, right? But yeah, it's like you're not only risking getting fired, which in Japan is basically a career death sentence. You're not only going to get fired, which is a career death sentence, but you're going to add criminal charges on top of that. So if you did try to just get a retail job, you'd possibly not get it because of your criminal record. Are you fucking stupid? Like, I know, I admit my ignorance on laws in Japan, but come the fuck on. Not to mention, your names are pretty fucking easy to look up, for God's sakes. So then they cross the desert. They come into the sand crawler, and they're like, and the dub pulls stupid dialogue. We're never gonna get past that. I'll just go ahead and read my note. We're never gonna get past that. Only has 1300 attack. Right. Jesus. Whatever. Moving on. So then they go through the labyrinth. And in the sub, Mai basically says, oh, I guess Joey realized I'm out of his league. In the... Oh, I might not actually have enough time. Never mind. And for that one. Anyways, I just realized the time's right. Anyways, but in the sub, it's like, well, why doesn't he notice there's an attractive girl right here? Actually, that is a damn good question. Joey Mai's right there. Go take her to dinner. Stop this nonsense. Prevent the fucking Doma arc from being as stupid as it fucking is. I'm shouting. I'm starting to shout. I need to quiet down. Quiet down. Sorry. It's early morning. I shouldn't be shouting. But that is a good question. Joey, get off your dumb ass and take her to dinner. Prevent my Freaky Valentine from ever happening because that is a shit episode. But I digress. The Briters will turn Joey into such a big idiot that he will be completely unable to save Mai from the fridge. Utilizing a character and a plot point does not mean fridging them. Rants for later. Rants for later. So then Kaiba is woken up by Witty Phantom, the only time Witty Phantom is worth any kind of a damn with his shit stats. Then we find out about the princess, the girl they meet that the gang met in the labyrinth. Labyrinth is a princess. And so they basically learn of the legend of the flying machine and the legend of the heroes combining forces to slay the evil god and blah 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 blah. And this is when we get into the costumes. I actually kind of like Yugi's costume. It actually just looks like standard RPG armor. And I kind of like that. Same with Mai's. Yes, it's more of a feminine design of it. Cool. They dress Joey like a barbarian. Could you not have at least dressed him like a Mermodian? Did Kazuka Takahashi really not play Fire Emblem? Anyways. So then they deal with a giant army of monsters from the Castle of Dark Illusions. And then this is the first time Dark Witch is summoned by Mai. But is recalled because Yugi tries to play Trap Hole. But this is when Mokuba's ploy is revealed. And he swapped places with the princess so that he would be captured instead of her, effectively to get to Seto. Which is actually a smart move because he still has Kaiba's deck. You know, I'm starting to think these game characters are really, really, really fucking stupid. Like, I know game characters aren't supposed to be capable of outsmarting the player, you know, unless they're basically Ultron, but, you know, or insert, you know, any other hyper-intelligent AI hellbent on killing everything. But, yeah. Also, speaking of, and then there's a note about abrupt commercials, because it just felt like the commercial break, interlude thing just came out of nowhere in part 2, and it was like, it almost gave me tonal whiplash, and I was like, what the fuck? So we also see that the Big Five are designed the game and the princess. Then the gang started looking for the flying machine, and this is where that 45-second scene that I mentioned earlier comes in. You know, the one that the dub skipped, and the pacing is better in the dub for it. That the dub skips, and then the dub is better for it. There's a solid 45 seconds of the people of Goland, as it's called. Oh, that's the kingdom they're in. Are encouraged. We must find clues of the flying machine. Because we have to pad out the episode by 45 more seconds. Now, obviously, I get that the idea that sometimes these run short, but are you telling me 21 minutes as opposed to 22 minutes, and it's just really going to make all that much of a difference? Just play at 45 seconds more commercials. Have more Japanese companies get some money. Fuck. Come on. I hate pointless drama so fucking much. So then they use Time Wizard to resurrect the airship. And yeah, I'm just gonna call it the airship because the flying machine, calling it a flying machine is just redundant and dumb. What did Square have the frickin' copyright claim to the word airship? Actually, and with considering how fucking stupid copyright law is, that wouldn't actually surprise me that much. It would more annoy the fuck out of me than surprise me. So then Mokuba frees he's Kaiba. They try to Dragon Capture Zara's second Blue Eyes, but Trapmaster destroys it. I like Trapmaster, by the way. It was one of my go-to flip effect monsters when I first started playing the game. So there's two things that I want to talk about. Atem doesn't show up until part 3. Now, I have to ask a question. Why is that? Now, on the one hand, you could say, well, that's because Yugi didn't summon him. Okay, that is a legit explanation. I'm not actually going to dismiss that explanation. I was actually going to, but I just realized, no, that actually is a fairly legit explanation. But I think there's another reason. I think Atem kind of encouraged the transformation, and Yugi's heart kind of accepted his call, kind of a thing. Right? In other words, Atem was cool with just letting Yugi be the hero this time, as he was last time, right? Granted, I think it's because he didn't want to touch. He didn't want to go anywhere near Rebecca with a 10-foot. He didn't want to touch Rebecca with a 10-foot pole, and I don't fucking blame him. Again, calm, peace, calm. But, I think it's more of just Atem was willing to let Yugi be a hero, and then his despair just was like too much, and I think he subconsciously called out to Atem and was just like, I can't handle this. It's yummy. And then Atem answers the call, and it's like, yep, I gotcha. I guess it would be more like, well, in the English it would be like spirit, and then in the Japanese version it would be other May. And be like, all right, yeah, it's cool. I got this. And, I got this. At this, I'm good. We're good, right? Which is funny because actually, what's fun? Yugi actually basically claims that it was everybody's victory at Duelist Kingdom, and I agree with that. When he's conversing, I was too angry at the Rebecca two-parter to comment on that, so I'm commenting about it here. Anyways, so yeah, that's my personal headcanon. Yugi subconsciously called out to Atem, and Atem answered the call, right? So actually, the whole idea of he didn't call for Atem the entire time still fits with that explanation, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Huh. Okay, well, if that's your explanation, you win. I don't know what else to say. Interesting food for thought, though. Anywho, let's move on. Let's talk about... But yeah, let's talk about Kaiba not liking that Yugi came to help him. So, sub-only watchers, you want to explain this one to me? Because, okay, the dub, I can explain the dub myself. He's a fucking asshole in the dub. There, done. The sub. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. In the sub, he is supposed to be more okay with Yugi. So why is he looking at this like, ugh, right? Now, admittedly, you could say, well, that's because the Big Five challenged him. Yeah, but the Big Five have been fucking cheating left, right, and center. And we haven't even gotten to their big activation of cheats yet. But whatever. It's still so stupid. So then the Big Five decide to be imbeciles and put themselves into the game in order to summon Five-Headed Dragon. Or Five-God Dragon, if you prefer. I have to admit, this thing is ridiculous. Oh, and it's even more powerful in the, when it's in its card game form. In fact, in the real world version of the game, in the real world version of it, specifically, it is actually another one of those cards that is actually better in the real card game than it is in the anime. And you're probably thinking, huh, how did Konami accomplish that, Blue Wolf? Oh, very simple. They turned a ritual monster into a fusion monster. I'm not even joking about that. In the virtual world arc, it will become it is a ritual monster, and in the real card game, it's a fusion monster that requires 5 dragons. I think it requires like 5 attributes. It's in with the ritual form. Yeah, it's really dumb. So, so they summon it. They put up that field where only dragons are allowed to fight. Right, Kaiba laughs because he's like, "Oh, you're challenging me to a fight of dragons? All right, I applaud your enthusiasm." Yeah, that's the version I'm going with because it's a better line. There's a reason why part three gave the preference point to the sub, gave the sub a preference point. You know, it's the dialogue and the music. Yes, I'm going to be a broken record by the time we get to the end of this series. I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. Um. Sorry. Calm yourself, Alex. Not so loud. Not so loud. But by the time, but that is the point. That is absolutely the point, right? So they fight. Joey ends up going down. Now this, I have a note here that says that Kaiba's opinion of Joey should have shifted here because Joey sacrificed himself to save Mokuba. And you want to know what that's going to mean for Joey's relationship with Kaiba for the future? I know it's filler, but God fucking damn it, can we stop letting Kazuki Takahashi railroad Kaiba into the role of jackass? It kind of fucks his character in the ass and gives 4Kids his more ammo to make him an asshole. Anyways. So, let's talk about the Big Five stupidity before we get to the epic final clash. The Big Five basically ported their minds to the virtual world. Why? Why did they do that? What was the point of that? You were risking your minds. What if they won? You know, what if they, because it's not like there's but I guess you figured out, oh, there's no such fusion monster in, between, freaking, you know, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and Blackluster Soldier. There's no way that card and a card like that exists. No, it's a myth. It's legend. It's not a card I own. Oh well. I was going to pull a joke where I pulled it out and just showed you, but I guess I don't actually have a copy. But you get my point, right? It's like, really? Which is funny because Kaiba even asks Yugi in the sub, "Did you know that Dragon Master Knight existed?" And all Yugi says is, "I just believed in my cards. That's all it was." Right. So Dragon Master Knight comes out, blasts Five-Headed Dragon. They're lost to cyberspace somehow. We'll get into that more when we get to the Virtual World arc, in a season from now. And that's the end. Mystical Elf, Princess, what's her face, reveals herself to be Mystical Elf. They exit. Mokuba thanks the gang. He goes off. And they go off. And then we have a frickin' joke about needing to use the bathroom, room in the dub, and everybody wanting to go home to eat in the sub. I have to admit, now, okay, there is one last thing we got to talk about with that final battle, and that is Kaiba being an obstinate moron. There's no fucking reason for it. Look, okay, because the thing is that everybody keeps saying it's not about his bruised ego. It's not about his bruised ego when it comes to, bitching out 4Kids. Then why the fuck is the sub double, tripling, and quadrupling down on Seto Kaiba having a fucking ego? See, this is the problem that I have with people saying that. You can't have your cake and eat it too on this one. And he's either an egotistical dipshit or he's an asshole. Pick your fucking poison. Which is funny because that's basically what viewers are told to do by picking which version you go with. If you pick the dub, you're picking him being an asshole. If you're picking the sub, you're picking him being an egotistical moron. Have fun with either choice. Alrighty. I guess that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are one video away from the end of Season 1. And this is only a video, I think this right here is video 25 of this series. What? I gotta be honest with you, I thought I was gonna have to record a lot more videos than this to actually, well, not a lot, because, it would only be like 24 more. But I honestly thought I was going to have to record a lot more than this. I suppose that's what I get for combining so many of these, which is funny because with like one exception to one part of or that may or may not count as part of a multi-parter, I've actually done all of the multi-parters in one. Funny enough, like the only reason you could pull a technically on me on that is Ghost Kaiba, and that's only because of the episode right before the duel with Ghost Kaiba. Anyways, I'm gonna chop off because I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on this exquisite three-parter. Some of the really dumb dialogue notwithstanding. And I will see you guys next time for a four-parter I'm actually curious about. Till then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Duel standby.